Hello everybody. We are going to go chase a sunrise. Are you ready? We're going to see if it's a good one today. It is 5:30 in the morning, 5:35 in the morning. Some of you have never even seen that number on a clock unless it was either PM or you stayed up all night. So welcome to my early morning car ride, and we are hopefully going to go find a sunrise. So a little while ago, I was driving with a gal that I know, and we were actually going to the beach for an evening, which was lovely. But she was 18 at the time and just graduated high school in her first year of university. And as we were driving, we got talking about this idea of calling, because she was now in university, but there's still this pressure of, what am I even going to do with my life? How am I going to use this? What am I passionate about? What are my skills? What am I called to do? And we had this really long conversation about that. And so what I want you to imagine today while we're watching this is pretend that you're in the car with me and that we are just having a conversation about calling and what that even means. So one of my most hated questions growing up, and maybe you resonate, maybe you hate it so much too that you're going to cringe just hearing the words out of my mouth, but it was the question of, what are you going to do with your life? Because honestly, I had no idea. And for some of you right now, you're like, oh no, I know exactly what the next 10 to 15 years of my life are going to be. And that's awesome. Some of you are like where I was and have no idea what you want to do with your life. And others of you can't even remember what you had for breakfast, let alone what you want to do tomorrow. So there's also that. But for me, whenever I was asked that question, I always kind of wanted to say to them, it was like, I don't know, stop asking me. Like, stop putting all this pressure on me, because I want to just figure it out. There's so many possibilities and so many options. I don't even know who I am yet. Like, just stop asking me and expecting that I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I think deep down, and I wouldn't have been able to articulate this at that particular time, but deep down, I always knew that I was more than my career. I was more than my career. I was like, what I do with my life? Yeah, I need to think about that. And yeah, I'm passionate about things. And yeah, I have skills in certain areas. And yeah, I do want to think about what I would like to do for my career, but I am more than that. And I want you to hear that today. If anything else, just hear that. You are more than your future career. You have gifts, you have skills, you have passions, you have experiences that are unlike anybody else's. And that is unique to you. And God created you in such an amazing way, and He wants you to use that and lean into that. He created you with purpose. He didn't just put your passions and skills together and was like, this looks like a weird combination, they might not succeed, and just throw you into the world. No, He gave you the specific passions and skills that you have and has a purpose and a plan for them. And all part of that for you and for myself is going on this journey of figuring out, what does that look like for the season that you're in right now? Because realistically, if we're talking careers, many of us are going to change our jobs multiple times over our life. That's just kind of how it goes. And that's totally great and totally okay, because we learn along the way, we grow, we get new opportunities, all of these things happen, and I think that is so good. But this idea of calling is not something I'd want to just throw out the window, because it's not something to throw out the window. I think just the question of what do you want to do with your life and the pressure behind that is something that we can throw out. Ooh, quick interruption, squirrel. There's a nice sunrise here, so we're going to pull over in a second and I'll give you a glimpse of what this looks like. This is why early mornings are so great. I think we should go find another spot, see if we can get another good view here. So let's unpack this idea of calling a little bit more. And I think there are 3 kind of subtitles that I want to just touch on in our time together. And the first one is that we are all called to follow Jesus. I know that might sound weird to you. And some of you have already decided, yeah, I want to follow Him. And that's awesome. We are here walking with you. And some of you are just like, I'm curious, I don't really know, I kind of know who Jesus is, but I don't really know if I want to follow him. We are here with you too. And some of you have never even heard of who Jesus is, and you just randomly came across North Park Youth's page. And all of that is just so great. It's a journey, it's a process. There are things to wrestle through, and we want to walk with, no matter where you're at, we want to walk with you. But ultimately, we are called to follow Jesus. But I was thinking about this guy named Peter, and Peter was one of Jesus's disciples. So when Jesus walked on earth, he had these 12 guys, plus there were some women with him as well, who basically followed him where he went. And they did everything that kind of Jesus did, and they witnessed all sorts of miracles and all sorts of stuff. And Peter was one of those guys. And before Peter followed Jesus, he was a fisherman, and he spent his day, he had a wife, he had kids, he had a mother-in-law that was living with them who was actually sick, so he was helping take care of her. And then for his work, he caught fish and sold them. And then one day he was out catching some fish with his brother Andrew and doing their normal shindig. And then this guy named Jesus comes up to them and says, "Follow me." What do you think Peter did in that moment? It's kind of something that you wouldn't really expect, because what he did was he dropped his nets and he followed Jesus. Peter knew that Jesus was different. There was something about his way of life and how he treated people and who he was connected to, if we can put it that way. And Peter wanted to know that. And so he dropped everything and he followed. And he got to witness some amazing things. Now, just because he followed Jesus, does that mean he got it all right? No, not even close. Peter did some crazy things. He messed up hardcore. He failed. He denied even knowing Jesus to save his reputation. He got super passionate about defending Jesus and cut off a soldier's ear. Like, he did some nutso things. But just because he did some crazy things, and just because he messed up, and just because he failed, and just because he wasn't perfect, didn't make him any less wanted by Jesus to follow him. And Jesus calls us to the same thing. He says, "Follow me." And he literally makes the call and says, "I want you to follow me." It doesn't matter that you mess up. It doesn't matter your qualifications. It doesn't matter what your reputation is. It doesn't matter. Anything doesn't matter. Just follow me. That's how much Jesus wants that. And let me tell you, living a life with Jesus is wild. It's an adventure, because it's so backwards and so countercultural. You might be in a place where you're like, there's got to be more to life than this. There's got to be a better way to live than this. And Jesus is the answer. And it's epic. And it's hard, and it's frustrating, and it's confusing, and there's lots of things to wrestle with. I won't deny any of that. But it's also incredible. So the second thing is that we are called to use our giftings and our skill sets and our passions. And to some degree, that might be tied directly with your future career, and that's totally great. But God has created us so uniquely that He has given us different skills and different passions and different abilities to do things. And He didn't just give them to us and say, I have to use up a little bit more math smarts, so I'm just gonna plop it on this person. And I have to use up a little bit more photography skills, so I'm just gonna plop it on this person. No, God is way more genius than that. He has a design and a purpose for each of us, and He wants you to use those things. So if I use my brother and I as an example, my brother is wickedly smart with numbers and gets giddy about spreadsheets. He loves it. Myself, on the other hand, I run from spreadsheets, and I still sometimes have to count with math on my fingers. It's not the way that I think. But myself, on the other hand, I'm more the creative person, the writer, the designer, that kind of thing. And he runs from all of that stuff. He doesn't like it. But that's why it's such a beautiful thing when we're both living in the places that God has designed us to live. As you are going through school, whether you're in grade 6, 7, 8, whether you're in high school, you're thinking about your future university, college, trade school, whatever, you can also use this time in this season of life to figure out what you're even passionate about. When I was in high school, I was like, I don't even know what I like to do. I dabbled in photography for a little bit. I did some music stuff, but I was like, I don't really know what I love to do. But then when opportunities came my way, I just made sure to say yes to every single one. And sometimes, yes, you have to manage your time and say no to things, and I get that. But there's something about where you're at right now. In this season of life, where saying yes to all sorts of crazy, weird opportunities can help you understand some of the things that you're passionate about. I randomly discovered that I love running events. You can't take a class for running events in high school, but because an opportunity came my way, I discovered that I loved it. And there were other things that I was like, wouldn't do this again. And that's totally okay. It wasn't a waste of time. It was just a moment where I got to learn that that wasn't my gifting, but it was somebody else's. So we are all called to use our gifts and our passions and our skill sets in some capacity. So the third thing that I want to touch on to close off is that you are called to your specific place right now. When we think of calling, it can sometimes feel like this far off thing that we're just trying to get to. Just get through elementary school, just get through high school, just get through all of these things so that you can get to your quote unquote calling. And then we miss out on the calling of today. Because there are opportunities in each and every single day that we get to partner with God to do some incredible things and to live a no excuses kind of life. I don't know about you, but when I got to the end of my schooling career, I didn't want to look back and say, oh, I just got through that season. I just got through it and gave excuses to not do things, gave excuses to not try things. I didn't want to be that. And I encourage you to also think about, what does it look like for you right now to live a no excuses kind of a life, and how you are called in this particular context. And it's not some grandiose thing that should be overwhelming. So for an example, I live in an apartment building, and so I have tons of neighbors, and I've been trying to get to know them over the last couple years that I've been there. And there's this one neighbor named Elizabeth that I've been getting to know, and her balcony is right above the door that I go into, and so we chit chat every once in a while, but she lives by herself, and I know that her family's out of town. And anyway, so on Mother's Day, I was making cookies for my mom, and so I figured I'll just throw a few of those extra cookies in a little baggie, write Elizabeth a little Happy Mother's Day card, and go drop it off. So when I went to go drop it off, she wasn't there, so I just put it through a mail slot and walked away. But she has my phone number, and she called me a little while later and said that she had not had a celebration on Mother's Day in over a decade, and that for the amount of time that she's been living in that building, nobody has even taken the time to know her name. And she was like, I feel like I have a friend in the building right now. And I just about burst, because it was something so small and something so simple in my mind. I was already making cookies anyway. It was just a few extra cookies in a little bag with a few words in a card just to say Happy Mother's Day and say hi. And for her, that was a sign of, she wants to be my friend. So for you, it can be as simple as, you have people in your class and you have people in your school. And if you notice someone kind of struggling, or you notice someone off by themselves, doesn't have a lot of friends, maybe there's a moment that you can start sparking up conversations with them. It could be the very moment when they realize that they finally have a friend around. And that is what we all desire, right? We all want to belong and be seen by people. So right now, you, where you are called to be where you are. The neighborhood that you're in, the school that you go to, maybe if you have a part-time job, right there are moments when you can impact people's lives in incredible, incredible ways. And not only just is that an inspirational thing to say, you can impact people's lives, even though you can, that's true, but it's you are called. And that feels a little bit heavier, right? And you are not only called because Maddie told you to, you are called because the God who created the universe and who created you and me called you into your specific place in your specific context and says, go. So that is all that I have for our little car ride chit chat here, trying to get the sunrise. It was beautiful. And I hope that you remember a couple things from today. One is that you are more than your career. Yeah, people are going to put pressure on you to figure that out. And to some degree, that's okay. But you are more than that. And you are called in 3 ways right now. You are called to follow Jesus. And if you don't know what that looks like, or curious as to even know why you should even consider following Jesus, talk to your small group leaders. Talk to some other people that you know who are followers of Jesus as well, because it is incredible. You are called to use your skills and your passions in some form. And again, it's not linear. You can use them in all sorts of ways. And 3, you are called to your specific place right now. It's not just looking to the next season, but you have a purpose and a calling right now, right where you are.